Welcome to another edition of Manifest 360. I'm Bob. That's Vipin. We're doing our show on the road today. I'm actually in Dallas rather than in Wisconsin. And acceptance and courage is something that we all need, we all work on, and we all have to deal with. Vipin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm actually in a little resort town on the coast of Oregon, in a town called Seaside. It's kind of a vacation hotspot for a lot of the Pacific Northwesters, but definitely live in Portland. It's about an hour and a half west of Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to see some friends and enjoy some good time.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to do the podcast on the road since I'm in my sister-in-law's guest bedroom using a computer that I never really use. So that's the courage of doing this whole thing and the acceptance, because I'm accepting the fact that I'm not at home doing it.
Well, two things we're talking about today: acceptance and courage. You can be lighthearted about them, but they're pretty serious deals in life and pretty serious traits or behaviors or thought processes, whatever you want to call them. They have a huge impact on our lives. And I'd love to tell you more about my last couple of weeks, but I'm going to talk about them today. But yeah, just to get it kind of warmed up a little bit, it's been a very interesting, I wouldn't say tumultuous, but definitely lots of ups and downs and a lot of weird things that have happened in my life in the last week. And I'm really excited about my life going forward. And it's acceptance and courage that have helped me to get there.
Right.
And that's why I chose the topic today.
You know, it's funny because I know the stuff that's going on in your life because we're friends and stuff, and we talk when we're not doing the podcast also. And I wasn't really sure what you wanted to talk about or how you wanted to take the topic today. So I'm going to let you take charge and kind of go with where you want to go.
Let's talk about acceptance. In one of the literatures that I have read in the last couple of years, it says that acceptance is the answer to all of my problems. And it is the solution to all of my problems so that I can think clearly, so that I can make sure that I focus on things that I control, be happy. Accepting things that I cannot control allows me to not get out of balance and really just gets down to, outcomes are nice to have, goals are nice to have, but life gets tricky. Life throws you a punch or two along the way. And for me, I got 2 punches in the last 2 weeks. And I would love to talk about both of them. And I had to accept one of the situations, but the other one forced me to use courage. So they kind of go together. And I kind of want to I'm hesitant to talk about the Serenity Prayer, but I do want to talk about it. So we've talked about the Serenity Prayer before. I want to dissect it a little bit. And we'll talk about my situation and in generalities. We're not going to talk about specifics of my situation. So we can get the point across, the context across, and how valuable these two are. So let's start with the Serenity Prayer for a second. So let's just dissect it. So it goes something like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay? So we're not talking about wisdom because I don't have any, and I tried to. I struggle with that. I can't read God's mind. I can't figure out all that stuff. What I can try to do with my rational mind, some meditation, my dog walks, and my being in nature is I can look at things and say, okay, with my rational, intellectual mind, and along with my emotional and in a calm-centered, loving way, I can accept certain things that are outside of my control. So let's start with this week. I was thrown a twist. A relationship that I've been in ended, and it was not my choice. It was a shock to the system in a sense that it was done through a text, and a long-ass text, and with a follow-up email the next day apologizing for the behavior. And I was in shock at first, and I went into acceptance mode, and I immediately went into what I call God's plan mode. And with my ability to accept situations in my life, especially lately with so many exciting things happening in my life right now, got the book coming out, got a business going, got the apps going, got the job going, and all of those things, this particular bump in the road, it's kind of a big bump. And I just said, okay, God's got a plan better than me. I'm just going to accept the situation as it is. And I'm going to honor the person and respect the person and just kind of walk away because they've asked me to walk away. So that was on Wednesday. We're on Sunday here. I've had no contact with that person since that initial and then an email exchange the next day. And I am at peace with it. What happened was I was in full acceptance mode. I was in God's plan mode. As you know, I talk about manifestation. I talk about the spirit, spirituality. I talk about wisdom in a non-wisdom sort of a way. by managing your emotions, managing your thoughts, using the mantras. And with all of my traits and tools, I got into full acceptance mode. I did talk to a couple of friends, not too many. I didn't want to go out there and drown in my sorrows because I don't think there are any sorrows. If you truly accept something, I think you say, okay, it is what it is. What's next? And so for me, I did try to grieve. I did try to feel bad about what was happening and adjusting on my expectations. But I don't really feel bad. I'm excited about the future. I love myself enough and I have a lot of self-worth and self-esteem issues that I've worked on through decades. And I have decided that I am worthy of more than the situation. And so I ended up getting more of what I want. I just don't know the next chapter of that particular part of my life, but I'm okay with it. And I talked to a good friend and who knows both parties. And that friend helped me realize that there were some traits in that person that I was overlooking. And those traits were not in alignment with who I am. And I appreciate the person. I will always appreciate the person. And I will move on and look for something that's better for me, that God has a better plan. So that was acceptance got me to that level. True acceptance, not just being in I accept it and I move on. No, really thinking about it, really digging into it, meditating on it, looking at the grieving part of it, understanding my feelings, understanding that I have to adjust my expectations, that it is my expectations that are at need alignment rather than the other person.
Yeah, listening to your story, Vipin, it sounds a lot like you knew where you needed to go with it and you were able to accept it. I look at basically back the last couple of years and just seen the way that you've grown in the last couple of years, especially with, the acceptance and with the fact that, when the proverbial shit hits the fan, you now know how to deal with it better than you did a couple of years ago. And I think that a lot of that is, the stuff that you learn with the Serenity Prayer. I mean, that's one of the first steps, but I think the work that you're doing on yourself also probably helped out a lot with, because you're constantly trying to improve yourself. And I think that's great. I don't think that a lot of people in our age group try to improve themselves as much as you try to improve yourself. Do you know what I'm saying there?
I spend a lot of time with my coach. I have a therapist that I go to just to clear some thoughts out. I don't have any problem mentioning that to people. I talk to good friends, vulnerable stuff. I have close friends. I don't just talk superficial sports all the time, though. That is a part of me. We do talk about the Seahawks football and the Chicago Bears football and all that stuff, right? That is a part of me, but I do have some good, close relationships. Not a ton, but 2 to 3, 4 guys tops. And I do talk to them. I do listen. I do reach out. They reach out to me for their stuff. And so I do have a good balance approach. What I've been working on for myself for the last 20 years is now culminating into experiential action, what I call it. I'm able to put it into practice. I'm able to execute on these mind-changing, thought-changing patterns and accelerate my manifestation, if you want to call it, of new ways of being. And I kind of joke around and how I manifest something kind of funny. We'll go off topic for a second. I wasn't even thinking about getting a good parking spot at the hotel here, but I ended up getting a great parking spot in the garage, two stalls from the front door, and I've had my car there the whole weekend. And I always say I've got good park karma. I don't even say that this time, and it just happens to me. So good things are happening to me because I kind of manifest things. So it's what's happening. It's kind of what is amazing and exciting.
I actually think that a lot of that works on, when I was younger, I would be like, poor pitiful me, why does life suck? Why is this terrible? And as soon as you turn that switch off in your head, I think that that's when things start changing. When you're like, you know what, accept the stuff that happens, because stuff happens to everybody. Everybody doesn't have the glamorous, perfect life that they think that they have. I mean, we have what we work on and what we do manifest, what we do say, like I said, when I'm doing something, I try to do the best that I can. And I always tell myself, do the best job that you can, be the best XYZ that you can be. And when I started doing that rather than expecting things to be great, I think that's when everything started turning around for me and started working to my benefit rather than, thinking, well, why the hell do I have to park way over here? And then as soon as I get up here, there's 3 park spots here. You just, it's not stuff that's personally happening to you. It's just once you have that positive attitude, I think that things start to change and start to go positive for you.
There's a thing out there called toxic positivity. Some people who are so positive, they tend to ignore the risks or the negative realities of life. And there are moments where you need to delve into the negative realities of life. Breakup of a relationship is one of those situations. That is a negative event that happens in your life. Things you can say, okay, I'm going to drown in my sorrows, or I'm going to accept, I'm going to find a way to grieve in a productive way, in a healing way. And then the second part of it is going to be, okay, the positive thinking has a huge impact. So getting past the toxic positivity is by looking at the reality, not ignoring it, digging into it, but then quickly moving on to the possibility. Possibilities of what does this mean? Possibilities of what can you do about it? Possibilities of what doors are going to open. When a door closes, sometimes a window opens, not a door. And if you're looking at the door that closed and whining about it, you can't see the window or the door that's opening. So it's really important from a positive perspective to not be toxic positive, but to look at the possibilities. When you're positive, you think of the possibilities that are out there, the doors that could be opened, the windows that are available, peek through to see if there's a door or a way out of the situation that's actually suited for you better than what you had previously. So that's really what acceptance gives you. That's really what having a good attitude around a growth mindset about a situation, that's what it teaches you to learn from a situation, get better about yourself, and move forward.
Well, taking advantage of a situation, I think that's what a lot of it is that, instead of closing yourself down and thinking to yourself, this blah, and then just taking advantage of that window that happens to be open so you can jump through the window rather than go through the closed door.
Exactly. So that's perfect. And how you go through that window, it may be a little higher than normal. It may be a little bit further than normal. It may seem like a difficult door with a crack you got to kind of force open, but there's a crack in it. It requires courage. And taking courage is an act of love. Sounds kind of weird, but love for yourself, love for the things that you want to accomplish, having trust in that higher power love, saying that God or universe or energy, whatever you call it, has got a better plan for you. And I will take the courage to just do the next right thing or the next step. Talked about it many times. Courage just involves taking one step forward, not having to run a mile or a marathon in one day. Of course, people do that, and that's great. Just talking about a simple step to open that door, crack that open, jump up to that window, try to get through it, requires courage.
Absolutely.
And I want to bring an example. And sometimes courage can be pretty intense. So let's talk about a different situation about courage, a story that I have the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, in a professional environment, I was told by a person of a higher position than me not do something. And I felt that was very unprofessional of the person telling me not to do something. In a group setting, I was basically told not to speak up. And I felt with my experience, with my communication skills, I, in a public environment, know how to speak in a precise way. I add a lot of value, I believe, and I added a lot of value that day. And after, when I added the value, when this person in a higher position told me not to do something the next two. So I had the courage to stand up for myself with this person, and then we ended it in a pause sort of a way. There was a mutual understanding of pause. It wasn't an agreement. It was definitely disagreement. And the next day I did speak up in that professional environment. And then following that, an hour and a half later, we had a retrospective and things got out of hand. And when things got out of hand, I was subject to certain behavior that I didn't like. And then ended up 2 days later, I raised my voice that day. I think I did. I don't even know if I did. Just defending myself. And I got blamed for that behavior or situation. I tried to accept it. I went down the path of accepting that this could have been my fault. What's on my side of the street? What could I have done better? And then I realized that I was put in such a challenging situation and others validated my experience. Others validated that you were not in the wrong. I took the courage to take a formal, official step against this person. And I did it in writing in a legalistic sort of a way to solve a problem within the organization that I'm involved in. And so what this required was a ton of friggin' courage. I have never done anything like that. It puts my position at risk. There's a whole world of retaliation against people taking steps like this. But once I did take that courageous, formal written communication step, I felt so free. And that is what it's all about. Once you take that courageous step, you feel not bound by your inabilities. You don't feel disempowered, feel whole. Even though I may not get what I want out of the situation, I know I did the best that I could given the tools and the skills and the experiences I had. So the story's still going to unfold there, but just the fact that I took that huge courageous step allowed me to be free, allowed me to be free in my mind, saying that I am empowered. I am not a victim of the situation. I can act on my intelligent thoughts, my thoughtful thoughts, things like that.
Well, Vipin, taking that first step oftentimes is one of the most difficult things to do. I know that there are a lot of people that do those steps every day, but there's also a lot of people that don't take the courage, that don't stand up, and that don't take that first the first step. And oftentimes that first step can end up being a great thing. And sometimes, in my lifetime, honestly, when I've done that first step, when I've taken that step and I've thought to myself that, the world's going to take the step and everything's going to fall apart, most of the time, when you do take those steps, when you do have the courage to do something, that it ends up being a positive. It ends up being, as we've talked about off the air this last week, that, you get what you can kind of handle. You know what I mean? So you take the courage to do that, which helps you out a lot. And then, you've mentally prepared yourself in order to be able to handle what happens because of the steps that you've taken.
Yeah. And I think it's huge, right? It's most of the time things do work out. There are circumstances when things don't work out. Most of the time things do work out. Now, they may not work out in this situation for me in that scenario, but I think it'll work out in my bucket of experiences, bucket of my next path. You and I have talked about what I call passion projects. It's empowering me to work on the passion projects. It's empowering me to work extra hard. Even though I'm on this vacation for the weekend with some friends. By the way, my buddy from Iowa is here, Ryan, who you had on the podcast once a couple of years ago. So I got to see him and hang out with him. And I got to enjoy this great weekend because I took the time. And as we were talking about, whatever the higher powers have the situation, you'll be able to accomplish certain things. I'm here on vacation, hanging out with my friends, and I'm able to work on my passion projects at night and early in the. As you know, I get up pretty early, 4:35, and I try to work late at night, early in the mornings for passion projects. I don't do anything in the way during the day to get in the way of my passion. So for me, it really is all about a balanced approach, acceptance, and courage. Man, that Serenity Prayer is so powerful. I highly recommend people to read it, keep it with their thoughts, and it's on a journey to. People often forget the courage part of it. They think it's about the peace and just acceptance. It's not. It's about courage and then the wisdom to know the difference between what do you got to accept, what do you got to take courage on. And that wisdom doesn't always come from us. It comes from a higher power. It comes from a higher source. And for me, it came through a friend of mine who's a ex-COO of Starbucks. He was one of the founders of Starbucks. And I've been talking to him about the situation. And I texted him a week ago Saturday and I said, here, this is what's going on. What do you think? He's like, yep, do it. Seems like the right thing. And a short couple of messages, he's able to direct my thoughts and saying, validate what I said. Not that I needed validation. I felt like it was the right thing, but it was helpful to get an outside perspective from a very high senior level executive who's been through these kind of things. And then working through with other people, getting the wisdom is really important, looking at all sides of it. And it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just deal with life as forward.
You saying that it shows a huge amount of growth, really. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. I also want to bring something up that you talked about a little bit ago, is that, you do make time to do the things that you want to do, and you said that you're working on your passion projects every morning and every evening. And a lot of times I don't think that people make the time or take the time to do the things that they need to do in order to be successful in life. I mean, I think a lot of people just kind of skate through and don't take the time and don't make the time and don't get a chance to do the things that they enjoy doing. Like this. I mean, for both of us, this is a project that both of us have embarked on 2 years ago, and we've basically done it every week for the last 2 years. And I mean, and that shows that we care enough about it that we're able to do it. And it's something that we want to do. So we do it rather than, how some people say, well, yeah, I wanted to do it, but I never had a chance to do it or I never got to do it. That's BS. Because if you want to do something, you're going to do it. You're going to find a way to make something happen.
It's total BS. Yeah. It's total BS. I work in a very stressful job during the day, as you know it, right? Super stressful job. I've been through tumultuous situations on the personal side. I get up every morning, I pray, I go to the gym, I get on my passion projects thing, and I get to go to my job thing. I get to do the job. I'm excited about my job. I get passionate about my job. 4 o'clock hits, I still check emails here and there. I'll work on passion projects, I'll meditate, and then around dinner, I'll walk the dog or hang out with some friends for a little bit. 7 o'clock, I hit the laptop again, and I get to work again till 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock. I get to do these things because I want to. I want it. And this is the thing. People want stuff handed to them. It doesn't happen that way. And you get me fired up about it, like, oh, I want this happen. That's why on the Manifest 360 thing in the book, I want to work with driven people. I want to give them the tools if you're driven. Yeah. If you're lazy, it's because you haven't found your purpose. That's what I believe. People in generally, I think, are not lazy. They just haven't found their purpose. But a lot of people are lazy. Not everybody is willing to give up their free time. Right. And people want to watch Netflix and sports all day. Great. I'm happy for you. I love sports too. I've been watching the Masters off and on in the background this weekend, right? I love sports as well. I make time for entertainment. But I'm so so friggin' driven. I'm so ambitious. I want to conquer the world. It doesn't matter what age. I'm 57 years old. I'm ready to rock the world. I don't care what anybody says. I just am going, man. One day at a time.
Exactly.
One step at a time. 1 hour at a time. After we're done here, I'm going to go walk outside for an hour in the rain. Then I'm going to go to this event thing with my friends. And I'm just driven. Because I have a purpose.
I want to interrupt again about something else that you just said, and because this is something that I've lived with for a long time. When I was a radio personality, I got to talk to a lot of famous people, and I really enjoyed it. And I remember thinking exactly what you just said, is that I get to talk Vipin today. I am lucky enough that I get to talk Vipin, and Vipin has to talk to me because that's the interview. And so sometimes I had really good interviews with the superstar or whoever it was that I was talking to, and other times I had half-assed conversations with them. But I always went into an interview thinking that I have the opportunity, I have the chance to do something that will help my life, help your life, and help the person that's listening to's life. And the person that I talked to, it depended on if they're like, I have to talk with Bob, then I kind of got a half-assed answer or a half-assed interview. But I get to, then they have the same passion that I do going into that I have, and then ends up being an extraordinary interview. So I just wanted to bring that up, that because you said the difference between have to and got to. There's a huge difference in there.
Huge difference, and people forget about it. The get to thing is huge, and somebody was just talking about it over the weekend. I get to get up in the morning. Yeah. I'm lucky. I have a back pain situation that's healing itself slowly. I could barely walk weekends ago, and I get to get up. Now even on that couch. I was there in Chicago. I was basically on the couch for 5 days. What did I do? I worked on my phone building apps. I have this tool that I'm using, incredible AI tool. I built a whole app in 5 days because I took that opportunity, even though I was basically couch ridden. So I get to do these things. And the biggest thing that I tell people, and the book is coming out. We're going to announce the contract here coming up in the next week or so. I'm going to go full force on LinkedIn and already doing it on Facebook in our group all the time with Manifest 360. By the way, we're starting to get some decent traffic on that thing from Facebook. It's pretty amazing. Manifest 360. And manifest360.app for those who want to manifest a life of purpose and prosperity. A little shameless plug. If you're driven and need a tool, get on that site. Send us a message. Write. We'll get in touch with you. We'll help you any way we can. We're all about helping people as much as we can. Help them live a life of their purpose and prosperity. The thing that I believe is have the courage to be kind to yourself. Have the courage to do the right thing. Have the courage to go after your dreams. You don't have to do it all tomorrow. You just got to take a baby step tomorrow. Start out with just 10 minutes a day. Move that to an hour. And then move that to 4 hours a day after work, like I'm doing. Once you get to a very clear purpose, once you get to a very clear mantra, and once you're ready to achieve it. We are on we're already achieving things, right? Got the book contract with an amazing publisher, and we're doing great things. It just takes time. You got to be persistent. And so one of the biggest things that I was reading a book this weekend on the audiobook was Napoleon Hill, the guy who wrote Think and Grow Rich. He had a whole chapter on persistence. It took, I think we talked about the light bulb guy, Thomas Edison. We talked about the fried chicken guy, Colonel Sanders, taking 1,007 no. We talked about all these people that just kept on going with persistence. Abraham Lincoln failed in so many different things, ended up being one of the best presidents in the U.S., did an amazing thing. So it's just persistence required, but you're not going to go persistent full board unless you have the courage. Tying it back to courage. You got to accept, then to the next step of courage. Go make stuff happen.
And that wraps up this episode of Manifest 360. If today's conversation sparks something in you, don't just think about it, apply it. Alignment isn't a vibe, it's a practice. Belief, emotion, strategy, and action, all moving in the same direction, that's where momentum lives. Be sure to follow, share with someone building something meaningful, and join us next week as we continue helping you manifest wealth and purpose. Manifest 360 is a podcastforhire.com production.